of all, welcome to all our customers and partners from around the world. Thanks for registering and expressing your interest in today's webinar. We're going to be looking at a very interesting example of how you can operate more efficiently. We're going to look at how you can integrate PortaBilling with the various other important back office platforms that you'd be using, and do it so in an automated way so that it ensures that you can scale better, that you can work efficiently, and that it hopefully leads to less frustration for your staff members that typically work with a lot of the data that you're working with. So first off, I'd like to introduce myself. For those of you who don't know, been with PortaOne for close to 15 years and worked a lot in the direct sales and had the opportunity to talk to a lot of our customers and partners over the years at trade shows. So I've seen firsthand how important today's topic really can be to ensure that workflows and various processes for onboarding or customer care how they can really help you support to reach your goals. Today with me is my colleague Sergey, and I think Sergey, you've been with PortaOne almost as long as me, or just as long. Isn't that right?
Yeah, I think it is. Hello, everyone.
Great. All right, so let's take a look at our agenda for today. We will also have a recording of our webinar. So for those of you who'd like to go back and see what we talked about and show it to your colleagues, we'll share that with you most likely next week. So let's take a look here at our agenda. So first of all, why are we aiming to automate certain things? It may appear obvious, but I want to share our perspective on this from what we've learned about this topic when talking to various customers and partners. We'll then use one of a very specific example of HubSpot CRM and Xero as a cloud accounting platform, and we'll show the use case that we've been helping one of our customers with. And then it's demo time. So Sergey will actually show you what we've done and how things work, and it hopefully gives you some ideas of how these tools can also help your workflow needs. We'll cover a bit what else could be done with the PortaOne Ipass platform, and we'll have a live and QA session at the very end. So when talking about workflow automation and data synchronization, what customers have told us, what they oftentimes are challenged by is that in order to operate your company, your business efficiently, PortaBilling is only one platform that you use in your day-to-day operations. You'll naturally have other platforms that you use, such as CRM platforms, such as accounting platforms. It could be an actual ERP platform, or e-commerce or web commerce shop, and so on. So there can be many of these, and I think with SaaS applications becoming more and more prevalent, we'll see that sort of fragmentation even more, which means that customer data lives in multiple platforms, which obviously leads to a problem that you'll have duplication, and customer data will live in multiple platforms, which oftentimes leads to some sort of manual data entry or copy and paste across various platforms. So obviously you could look at integration, but oftentimes these integrations are fairly static and they're very hard to adapt once they've been put in place. So obviously with a fast-moving telco, you may run into an issue that an integration you've done a year ago is already out of date and is not helping anymore. So our vision would be that we have a tool, that we have a platform or technology stack that can help you with a seamless automated workflow where we make sure that data is synced automatically across platforms that you use. So this, we hope, will help you to scale your operations and operate more efficiently that way. So here's kind of what we see as the goals or the outcomes that this kind of automated workflows can give you. So first of all, as I mentioned, obviously that your technology stack would stay in sync, meaning it cannot happen that a customer that lives in your CRM has a different email address, as an example, as they have maybe in your PortaBilling. So if the customer's email address or phone number changes, it should automatically change wherever that customer record is located, whether it's in the customer care or ticketing system or in the billing application. This kind of automated workflows also ensures that you can keep your costs down and you can serve more customers. So this is what we mean by scaling your operations. So automating key business processes will allow you to serve more customers while keeping your existing staff levels. And the third outcome that we've identified is that it becomes really important not only to have this automated workflow put in place, but also to ensure that we can maintain, that we can make sure that we can adapt these integrations as time goes along. So it doesn't help you to just have an initial integration and make sure, hey, it works beautifully this week, but what about next year? What about 2 years down the road when maybe you switch CRM platforms, or you introduce an additional marketing automation tool with your campaign needs and so on. So needs change. So we have to realize that. So instead of saying, hey, we've got an integration, so now I cannot change my platform, we should have a way to easily adjust these integrations that we have and allow your workflows to continue flawlessly into the future. So the use cases or the demo that Sergey is going to present in a few minutes here, we'll look at a specific use case of HubSpot CRM, Xero Cloud Accounting, and utilizing our Boomi platform. So I quickly want to introduce these three platforms to you in case you're not familiar with them. So HubSpot is one of the market-leading CRMs. I realize there's obviously a lot of CRM solutions out there. HubSpot seems to have gained a lot of traction lately from our perspective. A lot of our customers are using it. We started using it just about a month ago. So it kind of supposed to show you that obviously we're sold on their way as well, and we like that tool set. We like the CRM, and we're going to show you a little bit about it, how it works today. The second platform, which a lot of our customers have besides PortaBilling, and I would say in my 15 years with PortaBilling or with PortaOne, the one platform that we hear most about that customers want to integrate with the billing platform quite naturally is their accounting platform. So whether it be QuickBooks or in this case Xero as a cloud accounting platform, it just makes sense that a billing application should be properly integrated with the accounting platform that you may use as well. And last but not least, the technology stack or the platform that enables us to do and to offer these sort of automated workflows is Boomi. So we've selected Boomi after having done quite a bit of research in the automation ecosystem. And we like their offering, and we use that as one of the workflow automation tools. So, and also, you know, you might have seen it actually here in my presentation, and you may not be familiar with Ipass. So I just want to quickly point that out here. Ipass would refer to as integration platform as a service. So we've selected Boomi as our strategic platform partner for integration needs, and we're confident that it can help us, that it can help you with your automated workflow needs and help really with these integration requirements. So before we get started, with the demo time, I'm actually quite curious to learn a little bit more about what challenges you and what the environment on your end looks like. Now, I know a lot of you personally, so I have spoken with you, and but still, regardless, it's oftentimes quite surprising. So we're quite interested to. So I'm going to launch this polling here. And if you don't mind, please participate and let us know. So there's only 2 questions here in our polls. I'm going to quickly read it out for those that watch the recording of our webinar. So the first question is, how many core platforms do you use in your technology stack? For some smaller startup agile providers, that might actually be just PortaBilling, PortaSwitch, but oftentimes it is more. And the second question would be, how often do you manually add data to your platform? And this, I think oftentimes when I speak to customers, it appears quite surprising, but after a while, I'm becoming less and less surprised. And it's really, it happens more often than you think, that customers use Google Spreadsheets, use Excel, and do various key business processes quite manually. So we see here actually quite a good trend here already. So it seems an average seems to be about up to 5 platforms that people use. And well, 75% of you said that you manually add data to your platforms either all the time or more often than you would like. So and it reflects certainly from what we've seen when talking to customers and partners around the world. So thanks so much for participating here. So let me end this poll, and we'll jump right into the demo time to show you a little bit on what is possible and how we envision we can help you better operate more efficiently. So let me introduce the specific integration or the specific example that we want to talk about today. So we're going to look at an example where PortaBilling is integrated with both a CRM platform and an accounting platform. Now, I personally feel whether this is HubSpot or whether it's Xero, the example that we're talking about is very much applicable to a lot of you. And also the onboarding or the process will be very similar to what most likely you have in place as well. So let me explain a little bit here in what we'll be showing. So the CRM platform is very useful to capture leads and capture opportunities. So capture basically anybody that you talk to before they become your customer. So that's a natural place where you would handle this kind of data, where you do your marketing campaigns, for example, and so on. There may be a quoting platform involved here. So in this specific example, a quote is generated not in the CRM, but in the accounting platform. That's a choice, but obviously it could be slightly differently for you. at some point, we hope that your sales efforts are so successful that your lead and your opportunity actually becomes your customer. So at that point, you'll have to ensure that you onboard the customer to PortaBilling. Now at that stage, again, from talking to many customers, that customer is now entered manually in PortaBilling. But that oftentimes leads to a lot of issues, which we're going to look at in a second here. So we want to make sure that obviously the data seamlessly transfers to PortaBilling. We onboard the customer, we provision the services, and then at some point they'll have their first bill. They also have a payment. So we want to make sure that that reconciles well into our bookkeeping, into our accounting platform. So looking at this example of a PortaBilling integration with two other platforms, how would we could have done that up until now? Or so from speaking to customers, speaking to a couple of my colleagues, we've identified three main ways that customers might have gone about to do these sort of integration. So you could have obviously used your own development resources or IT team to integrate your platforms that you have. After all, PortaBilling has a good API. Its coverage is very good. So it is certainly possible to do a lot of these things yourself. This can be costly. There can also be a quite steep learning curve to get used to, obviously, working with the API and so on. It could be difficult to adjust, depending on how you obviously developed it, how you programmed it. And one item that seems to be the case for a lot of you, it's definitely costly to maintain. And that's, I think, a topic that a lot of customers oftentimes might forget, is to take into consideration what it takes to maintain a certain integration. Just as an example, you could have a developer that integrates your CRM with PortaBilling. What if that developer leaves next year, right? Is it well documented? Is it easy to hire a new junior developer and to take over that maintenance in case you need to adjust something? So I think that is a challenge that a lot of you seems to be struggling with. Another option or another approach to achieve a certain integration is using PortaOne's assistance via our feature request process. It can be costly too. It takes time, obviously, to go through a business analysis, to go through, what exactly you want to integrate. And the difficulty just remains. I mean, we would obviously ask you what you need to do, but a year down the road, when your needs change, essentially you'd have to go through the FR process, the feature request process again. So that challenge remains. And obviously a third approach could be no integration at all, which obviously oftentimes means that data's out of sync. There could be inefficient manual data entry, and ask yourself, what does it mean also to your team when you have these sort of inefficient data entries? They might just get frustrated. I mean, nobody wants to do boring work, copy and paste, that could easily be done in an automated manner. And it's obviously not really scalable to have no integration at all, because at some point when your customer base grows, you simply cannot do it with existing staff levels or without hiring additional people. So let us show you how it could be done differently. So Sergey will walk you through how we believe it can be done better, how we believe we can help you better to operate more efficiently. So I'll ask Sergey to take over control, and let's take a look.
Yeah, I'd love to. Yes, so let's assume for a simple demo that I'm not a project manager at PortaOne, nor I'm not a certified Boomi developer. Instead, let's assume that I own kind of a communication service provider. And what I'm doing, I'm providing a high-speed internet access across the globe, right? And as a demo ISP, I own a HubSpot instance, which serves as my CRM, where I track my leads, where I track communication with them, when I'm doing marketing, when I'm also track my opportunities, okay? And of course, as a communication service provider, I'm doing accounting. In this case, it's Xero. And for sure, I'm doing a service provisioning, billing, payment capture using PortaBilling, which serves as my billing and operational support system. Let's assume that an Andrew Zelenko from PortaOne approached my company with a request to cover his technology offices with Starlink access. Of course, I have Andrew here in my HubSpot system in contacts, right? So here's Andrew Zelenko. He has a lead status, and he is assigned to a company, PortaOne, right? So I have all the details about Andrew, how to reach him. I got all the information about PortaOne, and I also have other contacts associated with PortaOne. So it's not only CEO, but also Roman Halinkov, Chief Commercial Officer, and Klaus, right? So as Andrew approached me, and I'm thinking of creating a deal opportunity, right? So this is something we're gonna do here in the sales pipeline. Okay, so that's gonna be Starlink access to offices. Okay, so we assume that the deal amount is about $10,000, and I also want to associate this deal with the PortaOne, right, and with Andrew. Right. So as I create the deal, I can communicate further with Andrew and track all the information about this deal here. But for the sake of the demo, we skip the communication to Andrew. We're gonna just go through the stages. So we have appointment scheduled. We have qualified this lead to buy. We scheduled some sort of presentation. And let's say we approach a quoting stage, which is hidden in here, decision maker brought in. You can mention there is a sign of automation, HubSpot automation, which would trigger some useful things for our integration. So as I move a card here, that would trigger a contact creation in my quoting platform, right? So for the sake of the demo, I'm using Xero for quoting, and it takes a it's a real-time integration or near to real-time. So it makes up to 1 minute to synchronize events. So, okay, so let's see if the contact is here. Okay, so we find, okay, it's here. It's good. So if I open the contact, I will find that it was created just now by system generated. This is how Xero reports on any activity done by integration. Okay, so this record is now linked to my HubSpot record using HubSpot company ID, which you will find here in the company record. Okay, so it's the same. And as I apply any changes to the company name or any other properties, they will be synchronized to Xero. Okay, so let's move on and see what else we have. So let's assume we created a code here in Xero. I'm going to skip these steps to save our time. So let's say we are pretty much successful and we signed a contract, and as we progress with the deal, we won it, right? So I'll move the card here, and there is another automation from HubSpot that actually triggers more events. We're gonna provision this customer in PortaOne as well. So it's supposed to be created here. So let's give a system a moment for us to catch that event from HubSpot, to process the event properly, and provision a PortaOne profile in PortaBilling. So it's a matter of, like I said, it's almost a matter of a minute. Okay, here we go. So we got our PortaOne profile, and we also synchronized some events. We could mention that we got a clause here, while we have end user information in Xero. The cool thing of this integration is that the system actually analyzes a role of the contact in the company. So for example, Andrew is assigned a finance and CEO company role, which makes sense to create this contact in Xero. So we communicate the financial side of things with Andrew, while Klaus is assigned a different role. It's going to be technical role. Yeah, technical role. So that's why it makes sense to communicate any technical questions to Klaus, right? So that's why he's in the BOSS platform. And of course, it's not only about creation, it's also about updating information. So for example, if we find out that for example, our corporate number changed and we need to update it something like this. Right. So we apply change in HubSpot. Similarly, we wait for this information to be updated in the system in about like 15 seconds to 1 minute. It takes time to synchronize. Right. So just give me a sec. So here we have this phone in the old format, while after update, I think, yeah, it's done, so I can refresh and find that the property was updated, right? So I can also find in audit logs that it's actually Boomi demo user, which I use for integration, created the profile and updated the property of the profile a bit later. Okay, right. So the record is here, so we can actually do an installation. We can provision accounts and generate a bill. So in order to generate a bill, I'm gonna go to PortaBilling, invoices, and taxation for this record. I'm gonna define what I'm doing with taxes. So for example, in this case, I want to apply a fixed VAT, which I want to be 15%, just as an example, okay? And let's say the service provided, or we create some sort of initial or out of turn invoice with this amount, $10,000, right? So that's, for example, a setup fee for that satellite access service setup fee. Continue. Right, we can see taxes are calculated properly by Porta. And we finally schedule invoice generation. So invoice, we can find invoice here. In invoices, this is our unpaid invoice. And we kind of it takes just like with or almost like with the context synchronization, the transaction synchronization, invoice transaction synchronizations takes around 1 minute. So let's say let's try to refresh and see if we got it. Not yet. So while transaction on its way, let me also mention that in accounting you typically manage multiple properties, multiple billing and finance properties using the Xero groups. So this is something also supported by the integration. You can specify the Xero group here, like you can put specifically them into leads, or you can put specifically them here or there, and the Boomi integration will populate that account to the proper group. Okay, so let me check. I think it should be already here. So I'm just refreshing the page. I can see that invoice. Okay, so we got that invoice. Let us review it. All right. So the Boomi integration automatically created this invoice with just one line item, service charges, one unit price, $10,000, and the VAT 15%, and all-in match, right? So let's say our customers have some time to pay invoice, and our bookkeeper has some time to approve this invoice, because Xero allows you to create draft invoices so you can approve them when you're comfortable with this invoice. Of course, this Boomi integration can create approved invoices, so it's up to the level of automation for the bookkeeper, right? So we go, in order to apply the payment, we go back to our customer. Sorry. Yeah, we go to our e-payments, and yeah, here we expect to create it. So let's actually make it manually, right? So we go for e-commerce payment. This demo platform is integrated with AuthorizeNet payment processor. I will take a credit card number with so much money to cover this payment for us. And let's say it was Andre actually paying, right, the bill, right? So an amount was this. Okay, I will quickly populate the information. So it's all right. So let's apply and charge the card. Yeah, looks like successful. We got a receipt and we passed a payment through. All right, it's completed here in PortaBilling, talking towards AuthorizeNet payment processor. So this money, they actually reach, first they reach our account with AuthorizeNet, and in the end, our bank account connected with AuthorizeNet. So these things are typically require reconciliation in accounting, right? So this integration automatically sends this payment against PortaOne account and assign this payment to AuthorizeNet clearing account in accounting. So you can then match transactions between invoices and clearing account. And later, when you import your transaction from a bank, you can reconcile them against a clearing account. So that's just a typical keeping activities. For us, let's just go back to our PortaOne account. Let me see if, yeah, this transaction is already imported. Okay. So it's here. Let's review it. Yeah. So e-payment import from PortaBilling, $11,500. tax, something like this, right? So and we send it to authorized net clearing. Okay, if we go back and approve our invoice, Xero will automatically prompt you to reconcile that prepayment against this invoice. So let's do it. All right. So it suggests me to allocate outstanding credit that we created using prepayment. Of course, I want this. So I'm gonna take this money out of prepayment to this invoice to cover this specific invoice, right? In the end, our invoice is paid, right? So it's total less prepayment. It's completely paid, and the PortaOne account has everything reconciled inside, all the payments and all the invoices inside. So that's actually it. So according to the diagram that Klaus showed you before, we went through these steps, end-to-end cycle from lead generation to the payment, bill and payment reconciliation in accounting, all done in one go. And maybe I can give you some more details on how it was implemented. Klaus mentioned that we are using Boomi Platform for that. And this is just a quick intro into that. So I can actually monitor what happens with all those transactions here, right? And so what we did, actually, we subscribed to HubSpot events, and HubSpot is sending its events towards Boomi, and Boomi then think of what to do with that. For example, Boomi can create or update Xero contact information and PortaBilling contact information. So this is done by this process, right? We are also subscribed to PortaBilling events using these properties. So PortaBilling can also generate events like invoice created or payment created. So we take these events and then also process and upload relevant data structures into target systems like Xero, right? So just to give you an idea how, for example, how I manage the PortaBilling events. So as you can see, I receive event from here, from the event queue, and then I'm just doing routing. So if it's new invoice, for example, it takes this path, and then I define which Xero tenant is applicable to me. It's important because this integration can actually talk from one HubSpot instance towards multiple Xero instances representing different business units of one organization. So as I go to create Xero sub-process, I'm doing different filtering to make sure events are unique, and then just populating some properties like, okay, let's take this, then let's take that. Let's verify if this invoice is already there in PortaOne, in Xero, sorry, so we don't create a duplicate. And if it's not, then we take invoice and finally complement it with PortaBilling customer information, right? And finally map it and create in Xero. So as you can see, I'm using just shapes and drag and drops, clicking here. So it's literally no coding or zero coding clause.
Okay. Could you for a sec also show the data mapping tools? So in the PortaBilling invoice to Xero invoice, yeah. I think
all right. So,
quite useful.
okay. So just give me a sec. Expand, and I'm gonna expand.
So the reality is of multiple systems have multiple ways to store data. So it becomes very much necessary and essential to ensure that data is properly mapped between systems. So this is what Sergey has done here to map the information that we have in PortaBilling, how we store it with the internal properties, to how, for instance, Xero as an accounting platform would store invoices. So this gives us a nice graphical way to map data, to transform data, to ensure it's matched across various platforms, and it's all done in a graphical and visual way. Anything to add from your end about that, Sergey?
Well, I can talk hours about that, so I'm very excited using this tool.
I think it's been very useful. Thanks so much for this example, and also just to kind of make sure. Obviously, first of all, there have been a couple questions or hand raises, so please make sure to use the Zoom Q&A tool to ask your questions. We'll cover the questions and answers at the end of the webinar in a few minutes. And also just to make sure, I mean, this is obviously an example that uses HubSpot as a CRM and Xero as an accounting platform. But the actual workflow that we've built is very modular, and it's easily adjustable or adaptable to whichever CRM or accounting platform you might use as an example. So whether you use Salesforce or SAP or some other CRM platform, it's just as applicable. And the same with if you use QuickBooks or an actual ERP like Oracle NetSuite or Microsoft Dynamics and so on. So the Boomi platform has already a connector catalog of a large number of well-known platforms. But even if there isn't, if you use a very localized platform that maybe isn't already there, Sergey and we managed to build very much simple proof of concept type connectors in a couple of hours. So it's not, if you see one connector that might be missing, it's not a problem at all to handle that sort of requirement. So let's quickly go back here to, and please, I see questions trickling in. Thanks so much. So please do so. While in the meantime, we'll go back to our presentation and we'll have our question and answer session very soon. Okay, let me just find my window. Okay, there we go. So thanks again, Sergey, for that. So we see this way as a quicker time to market and therefore a less costly way to do integrations. We feel this gives a very good way to enable flexibility to adjust workflows when requirements change. So this was what we previously talked about, say, a year down the road. If you need to introduce an additional property or you need to slightly change your workflows with the Boomi platform, this is not a problem at all. And for those of you in the IT role or in a development role, it still gives you those principles of obviously a test environment, a staging environment, or versioning and rollback. So that is still something that's supported in this kind of graphical way of doing integrations. one more item just to kind of maybe also trigger some ideas that you have on how this could be used. So apart from using PortaOne Ipass, which is the Boomi platform, or PortaOne Ipass for workflows, just for integrations, it is also possible, it also includes a tool for developing or creating micro portals, so small applications that are mobile friendly also to perform certain tasks. And an example would be here. So as I mentioned before, we use QuickBooks in our company. We use HubSpot as a CRM, and we started actually using Boomi now also internally ourselves for some of our processes. So Sergey's developed a simple micro portal to allow us to reconcile certain invoices and payments between PortaBilling and QuickBooks as a desktop version. And this is just an example of a mobile-friendly micro portal that he's developed, just to give you an idea. So these are obviously just some screenshots, but so if you see a need or if you have an idea, please come talk to us and allow us to give our opinion on whether this would be a good fit to be done in the Boomi platform. So before we go to our Q&A session, I do have one more poll that I would like, to get your feedback on. So here are the questions. Again, let me launch the poll here. Okay. Live poll 2. There we go. So the first question is, for those of you that are watching a recording, what other platforms do you use to run your business besides PortaBilling? So we've previously asked you how many other platforms you have. So let's try to break it down a bit. What other platforms do you have? Do you actually use a CRM? Do you use an ERP, or do you have an accounting platform? Also, some of you might actually have an actual e-commerce or web or mobile shop, such as Shopify, or another e-commerce solution where you onboard customers or let them self-onboard. I'm sure a lot of you would use a customer service or help desk application. So I see good answers here. Okay. And the second question that we're interested in: how often does your team manually perform these repetitive business processes? So I see it seems very much along the lines what we see before, so that it is quite often that your team members perform these manual tasks. And yeah, I mean, I've seen it as well. I'm a bit of an automation freak on my end. So if I see something that frustrates me in my daily workflow, and I'm not interested in doing that sort of manually, I always look for optimization or ways to automate these sort of things. And then one portion I was really quite interested in: how many of your IT team or internal team members might look after some of these integrations on your end. So this is quite interesting to us to see here. An entire team even. Wow, interesting. All right, very good. So I truly appreciate you giving us some of your feedback. And as I said, Sergey and I and our team welcomes, any specific challenges that you might currently have. And if you've seen something today that you think could be done maybe better or could be done differently, please do talk to us, and let's find out if we can maybe help you with your needs. So let's end this poll and let's jump into the question and answer session. So I see, so just as a summary before we're jumping into the question and answers, just to maybe get some basic questions out of the way. So PortaOne Ipass workflows is what we refer to as the Boomi platform. It's a low-code integration platform. It's a business process automation platform, and it also includes low-code micro portals that you can develop. What Boomi refers to as the flow portion of their platform. It has capabilities to integrate and automatically sync your data across various platforms in your technology stack. And as I mentioned here, some micro portals you can develop in the Boomi Flow platform. So let's see if we can answer some of your questions here. Let me just pull up so we can see. I'll probably have to stop sharing. So let me stop sharing. Couldn't see your questions yet. Oh, here they are. Okay. So one question from Thomas, do we have to use Boomi or can HubSpot speak directly to PortaOne via Ipass? So Ipass workflow is the Boomi platform. So Boomi is the integration piece that sits between HubSpot and PortaBilling. Yes, it is possible to have HubSpot speak directly to PortaBilling, but basically that would defeat the purpose because essentially you would create a HubSpot app. And again, that would be a static piece of code that would be harder to maintain. So we feel an intermediary, Boomi, is a better way to handle these sort of integrations. So here's a good question, Sergey, that I want to redirect to you. So Wayne is asking, what happens in Xero if we suspend an account in PortaBilling?
Yeah, thank you very much for this question. At this stage, the current implementation does nothing, but just like I subscribe to create and update events in PortaBilling, create invoices in PortaBilling, I can subscribe to account suspension events in PortaBilling, and then I can, in a similar fashion, implement a handler to fit business requirements on what I actually want to see in Xero when account is suspended in Porta.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. Thanks, Sergey. There is another question from Phil. If there's a minimum version or maintenance release in PortaBilling to support Boomi, so the workflows, there isn't. However, older releases may have less handlers on our end, less events that we support in PortaBilling. So nowadays, PortaBilling supports events for obviously a customer updated, account created, product service configuration changed, invoice new, payment, and so on. There may be less of these events in older releases. But other than that, Sergey, do you see any other, so MR55 as an example, could still be used yeah, okay. There's another question here about connectors of PortaBilling with WinBooks. So this would be an example here. So to my knowledge, there's no Boomi connector for a platform called WinBooks. I'm actually not familiar with it. But from my personal working experience with Boomi, and Sergey, I'm sure you can support this as well. As long as your application has an API and has some sort of standard way of accessing the data, a connector to it is not going to be a problem, right?
I just checked this WinBooks from Belgium company. It's accounting platform, and I just checked their API requirements, and it looks very similar to Xero. So just reconnect to their API. Will take a couple of days to implement just the same logic.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you. There's another question here, whether the standard API interface is used. Yes, absolutely. So on the PortaBilling side, we use the standard API. So Boomi calls PortaBilling API, and Boomi receives PortaBilling events from our events framework. And it's all standard interfaces. Great, great question here, which was actually going to be a topic that I was going to touch on right now anyway. So thanks, Wayne, for that. So the question is whether Boomi is a cloud application or whether it can be hosted within an on-premise environment. Both. So this is actually one of the reasons why we chose Boomi over certain other integration platforms that are out there. Boomi is by default a cloud platform, meaning the execution engine sits in the cloud, accessing, you know, your various applications. But it can also, what Boomi refers to as an add-on is the execution engine, and that can also run on premises to access data that might be behind firewalls, that might be in secured environments. So that is possible. And also API is only one way to get data. Boomi also does support direct database connectors, flat files, and various other ways to get and receive data into automated workflows. Are there any other questions that we can help you with today? So thanks for those of you that have asked here a few questions. We'll make sure to type out our answers, and to in our summary where we share our recording of this webinar next week, we'll include a listing of the questions here, so you'll have them also available in text form. Okay, and so Alex had a question here. So yeah, if you're interested, or if you're interested in a specific idea about what a timeline might look like, what a project like this might look like, please talk to us. Our main idea with the Boomi platform is that it's a tool for you to use to achieve certain integrations. You can get access to the Boomi platform yourself, so you can do these integrations yourself, or you can obviously ask us and procure our help with the integration projects. But from my personal working, and yes, I have a bit of a technical background, but I'm not a developer and I'm not certified like Sergey. But certain simple integrations, the learning curve is not very steep, and you can do very impressive results in a very short amount of time. So I do think this would be quite interesting. Another question here, just before we go here, Boomi integration with SolarWinds enable. When we'd have to take a look, I do think even if there's no existing integration, again, if there, as long as they're an API, then yes, that could easily be done. So we slightly went over the hour, but I do appreciate everyone attending, and thank you so much. And I really hope that it's been useful to maybe give you some insight as to what we think is a good way to achieve challenges that our customers have told us about. If you're interested in taking things further and make it a bit more specific to your specific challenges that you find that hold you back, please come talk to us, reach out to us in sales@portaone.com. And yeah, we'll look forward to speaking to you then. So thanks so much for attending, and we'll share the recording of our today's webinar with you next week. Thanks so much, everyone. and have a good day.
Yeah, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.